Hello everyone, my name is Roya, and today we are here to talk about Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is a book that everyone and their mothers is talking about right now. It's about a girl who goes to a war college for dragon riders when she had not trained for that at all. She thought she was going to be a scribe, and then her mother, who is a general, tells her that no, she literally has to go and become a dragon rider. So she basically is thrust into this very dangerous world of this Dragon Rider Academy where it's kill or be killed, basically. Everyone in there is trying to kill each other and all of that. I did not enjoy this book at all. So it is not as bad as some of the books that made my worst list last year. It's really not. But it's still the worst thing I've read this year. Let's start with the writing, okay? So the writing is really, really bad. Really, really bad. The dialogue is also really, really bad. People just do not talk like that. Like, literally, the first scene we get in the book is basically, like, her mother just kind of, like, tearing her down for having pale skin and pale hair in just this really out-of-place way. And just the entire thing, the dialogue is really out of place, and it feels so clunky and weird. The internal monologue is super not great either. The phrase "for the win" is used constantly. Literally, it's just like blah de blah for the win or whatever in ways that doesn't even make sense. Like literally every sentence that uses "for the win" could have just been cut out. It didn't even need to be like changed. That's how completely out of place it is. So the writing is really, really bad, as I mentioned. The sex scenes, so a lot of what has people in such a, like, hyped state over this book is for the romance, which is really not great, by the way, and the sex scenes, which are really explicit, which are really, really terribly written. So the reason why the sex scenes are so bad is because they are written as, like, sentence for sentence exactly what they're doing. Like, no actual good writing, just literally, he did this, I did this. Like, literally, that's it. And when I heard that Rebecca Yarros she's actually written romance before this, I just somehow find that really hard to believe. I'm sorry. So let's get into the plot and why the plot just does not work. So, firstly, our main character, Violet, has no actual motivation to do any of the stuff that she does. So, she's forced into becoming a dragon rider, but she turns down every possible escape, not for any real reason, just because the story would lose its plot otherwise. Really is what we get. Like yes, she uses the excuse that, like, no, her mother would not allow it and everything, but really, even though she literally actually could and her mother would not be able to say shit, she literally just for no actual reason just goes like, no, I've made it this far, and like just it makes no sense. Like, she has no actual reason to do anything that she's doing. And then, spoiler alert, she's the first person to ever bond with two dragons instead of one. And there's no real reason why. I mean, maybe in later books in the series we will get a reason why, who knows, but I was really expecting some kind of reveal for, like, the dragons were plotting something, or like something to come up in the first book, or like something that at least alludes to there being some kind of reason why, but there really was not. And I really don't think that there's going to be. It didn't really feel like that was a secret that's being kept at all from the reader to keep us reading the series. It really just felt like it was arbitrary. The dragons give abilities to the writers that they bond with, but they're completely arbitrary. They have nothing to do with the type of dragon or the anything. It's literally just the people who are dragon writers get abilities that are bestowed upon them from their dragons, but they seem to be literally just anything. Not anything in particular that the dragon can do, per se, like anything like that. It's literally just random. and there was just no system to it. So when you have some kind of magic system, there really does need to be limits or some kind of actual system to it, or else it's just not a magic system, and it just does not work. And then nothing about the story is unique at all. It's a ripoff of literally anything else that has dragons in it. The first sentence of the book is that the dragons, that the riders die if the dragons die. That is literally taken directly from Eragon, which was already a ripoff of plenty of other stuff too. But basically, Eragon already does that, except it's the opposite. It's the dragons who die if their riders die, but it's the same exact thing. Like, there's no reason for the riders to die if their dragons die, but that's just how it is. It's just like, it seemed like it was just a random, I don't know, like, nothing in this entire story made any sense, as for, like, anything at all. It was all completely just too convenient and really, really arbitrary the entire way through, and that made it really, really boring. The only thing that I liked about it was there is a twist on like one of the types of dragons, that I thought was like, when I read that, I was like, oh, no fucking way. Like, that was like the only thing that made me go like, oh, that's pretty clever. Like, I hadn't really seen that before. And then also the dragons do have different kinds of tails. Like, their tails are either like dagger tails or like club tails or whatever. And it's kind of like, you know, there are like a bunch of different ones. So it was kind of like, at least I hadn't really seen that before. And it is kind of weird because that that people are more prestigious for having the more, like the sword tails and everything. Like those dragons are more badass, for example, except that there's no, we don't really see the dragons use their tails in battle or anything. Like, it's not like they really are using their tails as a weapon. It's more like, oh, that's like, that's just what makes a dragon more badass. But I still thought it was kind of unique, at least. Like, I hadn't really seen any books that have that with the type of tails being different. But overall, like, nothing in this book made sense, as I keep saying. Speaking of things that don't make sense in this book, none of the world building. None. So, basically, in this Dragon Rider Academy, we have people killing each other. They are encouraged to kill each other, basically. When the military is desperate for people, why are they encouraging the killing of literally whoever in the Dragon Rider Academy? It makes no sense. And then the people who do not bond with a dragon basically have to repeat the year, when it would make a lot more sense if they just like had to join another branch or something. Because they keep talking about like, no one wants to be in the infantry or whatever. So why not have the dragon riders who do not become dragon riders just go to the infantry? Like, why? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then furthermore, there's a whole big thing about the children of the failed rebels, basically, having to become dragon riders, being forced into it. Why are they making the children of the rebels the highest type of soldier there is? Why? It's like making them officers, basically. Like, that makes absolutely no sense. Like, that's not gonna come back to bite them in the butt later. Like, sure. Like, so basically nothing about the world was thought out at all. Like, nothing. And then back to, like, the military being super, super desperate for people. In order to even get to the Dragon Rider Academy, they have to cross this really dangerous parapet that's really, really slippery, and a lot of people die even getting there. Why is that a thing if they're so desperate for people? They're just, like, killing them off when they need people? What? The characters were also really, really bland and super one-dimensional. and had very little personality. I listened to this on audiobook, and the audiobook was fantastic and did the voices really, really well, but still, that did absolutely nothing to hide the fact that the characters had absolutely no personalities. There's also a love triangle that's literally just there to be a love triangle. Like, literally, there's this other guy added to the mix who's basically one of the main character's closest friends, and he's literally just there. He's only a love interest just to be, like, the extra guy there who, like, just so that there's a love triangle, and it really does not fit. Like, the story would have flowed a lot better if he had just flat out not been a love interest to begin with, because we already know that that's not the guy she's going to end up with at all. So, and he is, like, that dude is probably the most insufferable person in this entire book as well, because every interaction he has with her is, like, belittling her under the guise of trying to keep her safe. So in trying to, like, because he knows, he's like the only one there almost who knows that she's disabled, and he is trying to do whatever he can to try to convince her, like, no, don't do that, do this instead. And he's basically, like, telling her what to do in a way where he's being really condescending, which is fine if, like, let's say, she at first thought that he was actually trying to help or something, and then realizes that he's being that big of a jerk and just belittling her or something like that would be fine. But, like, it's not the fact that he's like that, it's the fact that it's every interaction they have. He is defined entirely by his belittling of her. That's his personality trait. His one single personality trait for the entire book. Like, literally any character in the entire book is, like, super one-track minded, super one-dimensional, like, not interesting in the least. Like, nobody in this whole book held my interest whatsoever. Just the whole book was just so dry and so generic, and like I said, it's not even as bad. It's not that bad. Like, it could have been so much worse. I read at least 3 books that were infinitely worse than this one last year, but this book was just not it. From the premise, it sounds really awesome, and it was just not. So overall, as if you can't tell, I really did not like this book. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for watching. If you've read this book, please feel free to comment down below with what your thoughts are, what you liked, didn't like, etc., etc. And I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!